Hello, how's everybody doing? We're at a website called ambientcg.com. It's got free HDRs. If you look at these HDRs here, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. But if you look at them, you'll see a tone map version and you'll see HDR version. HDR has a lot more range as far as the colors, but you'll have to convert it. And when you do so, you'll lose some of the whites and stuff, whatnot. You basically control the exposure. Now, if you get one that's already tone mapped, then it's already done for you. But when you get these, don't save this one. Zoom into it with the zoom tool and save that one. That's the 16K one. And we'll just save them as a JPEG. Actually, I'm going to put it in the level so it's already. No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. We'll put them on the desktop like I was going to do. Keep them all together. Alright, let's go to Blender, make our ball. It's going to go in here. Oh, y'all like this one here. It's tiled, but I didn't get it for up far away. I got it for up close. It's like moss. You know, like a moss. Well, I think it's alright. Kind of looks mossy. Anyway, go on to Blender. And in Blender, we just need to make a ball. We need to make a UV sphere. Mesh UV sphere. I think I'm going to give it more subdivisions than what it normally's got. You don't really need to do that, but it might improve it a bit. Then shade it smooth. Now if you look at the face orientation, it's currently where the inside is the inside and the blue is on the outside. But we need to flip it so that on the inside it's blue and on the outside it's red. So we go to edit mode, A, select all, mesh, normals, flip. That puts them inside out. Since we're going to be looking at this ball from the inside, that's how we need it. Now the texture, we got to make a ball. I always call these SkyBalls. I don't know. You call them whatever you want to call them. Just say number 4. Add a texture. I'll name it also similar. And then the base color will be that image that we downloaded. I have to figure out which one it is now. Alright, might have went in a zip. Where did it go? Oh, where did it go? I don't know. I didn't know, mate. It's not here. That's for sure. Save as. Oh, you dumbass. You got it in the wrong damn place. You're looking in the wrong place. You can't get it if you ain't in the right place. Damn. Forgot to put them in this folder. So the one that we want is going to be, well, I got a few of them, but we'll get this one. Go to texture view. We go inside of our little ball, and that's what it'll look like in Beam. Except should be a hell of a lot more brighter. Now them little things there, you'd have to clone stamp them out if you don't want them in your scene. Or put a big old mountain right there. So we'll export this as a DAE, and it'll go in the level of our choosing. And just in here, I'll just make a folder for the SkyBalls. And in there is where it shall go. We'll save it as a SkyBall number 4. Now, one thing I didn't do is I didn't really adjust the texture. We can come back to that. I can load it in the photo editor if I need to. But for now, we can just go to the asset browser to our SkyBalls. The game's already running, so we probably need to tell it to refresh directory. And there's our SkyBall right there. So the DAE we drag into the world. And there's our sky. We gotta tell it to be about 5,000 by 5,000 by 5,000. And we in business, son. We in business. Now there is light hitting it and whatnot, and this is where the more challenging part of it comes in. So you need to go to the material editor, convert to PBR. That way you can use the bloom. What I mean by the bloom is where it's so bright it starts to look like a bloom. So we'll put the same texture in emissive. And this is where you can really crank it up. You can really make it glow bright, like a bright, bright sky. Now you can only do so much with just one picture, right? You're going to need to do some other things. Now I don't want this cast in shadow, and I got to remember how I got that out of there. But for the time being, I ain't worrying about it. It'll just be alright. Maybe that's what I did. I don't know. No, that ain't what I did. I did something. That made it reflective. Yeah, that's not what I did. I gotta figure it out. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. I guess that was it. Yeah, that was it. Don't use it in base color map, because that's not going to be evenly lit everywhere like emissive. Emissive will be lit where it's supposed to be lit, whereas the other one's pretending to be a sky, but it's really just a texture. So now you can really crank it up and stuff and get it to glow if you want it to glow. And I can cut you short there and tell you no, it does not work with time of day. If you change the time of day, the sky's going to stay the same. Right? Now one thing you can do, because you only get a limited amount of color, right, you can do, you can edit the material so that the material itself, or texture itself, has more features that you are looking for. So we'll close these and pull it in here, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we go to our material that we just copied in there with our ball, and pull it in the photo editor. And what you can do here is you can adjust the chroma or saturation to make it a little more. Now, you don't want to go crazy with that chroma now, because if you do, it'll start looking crazy. Alright, you also got saturation you can increase. And you got the amount of levels, so you can have it look a little better. But as far as contrast, if that's the look you're going for, now don't go too crazy with this. Don't do like this, right? Because you'll have your opportunity to do that with the game clouds. They work as a, and you don't want to blow out your whites. That was the whole point of using the damn tone map version of it. So that doesn't happen. We'll export this and you'll see that it did make a little difference. Oops. Oh, dang it. So yeah, it made a little difference. Not a great deal. I mean, it made some. Once it once it exports it. Yeah. I think you're gonna lock up on me, folks. They're sure thinking about it. Yeah, good. You didn't lock up. Yeah, it's a good time to save. Just save the texture you're working on if you're editing it, and save the level. That'd be a good idea. Now, the sky, the clouds, that's what really brings this thing to life. But first, before we do that, we got to make the sky an alpha channel, have alpha channel, so it's transparent. So we'll go to here, alpha blend. There's something that's killing performance right now. I don't know what it is. We go to alpha blend, tell it to be lerp alpha. And then the opacity controls how much of the real game clouds come through and how much don't. We got an error, something going on now. This shit it's crawling too much or something. Texture invalid path. Oh, that's their workaround. Never mind. That's not a bug of mine. I don't know why they have that issue either. But it's got an issue with it. I mean, how many times are they going to rename it? I guess each time it says it's a 16K image. Each time it's taking a hit to performance because it takes a while to write those. Well, anyway, we know what's doing it now. And now we can go and add our clouds. Oh, you may have one already in here. And that shit's starting to get old now. Come on now. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. He needs to quit doing all that. So these are our clouds, right? We'll just use one for now. Just one cloud. So what you'll do is go into the inspector with a cloud layer, and you want to make sure you use the sky normals to do this. And coverage, you'll want like a 1% to start with, and then you start to adjust the exposure. Depending on these, and the height. If you don't give it any height, you ain't gonna see it either. But if you're not seeing your clouds through there, then you didn't make it transparent enough to see through it at all. So you give it a little transparency, then you can edit that cloud. So you see how that give it a lot more range, like as far as what's dark and what's bright, right? And you can also tint it. If you want to tint it, you can tint it with these clouds. But yeah, that's what I do this for. You gotta kind of watch out though when you do that. The clouds, man, they really reflect. So if you make your clouds pink, they're gonna be all in this car. Depending on, yeah, see what I mean? That shouldn't make it look like that. I'm sorry. That shouldn't go like that. But that's just how it does it. Shouldn't matter, but it does. So just keep that in mind. It ain't so bad lightening and darkening it. It's when you make it weird colors that it really looks weird on the vehicle. So we'll bring this down a bit, and now we will change the amount of coverage so that we can kind of see. This one may not work good. And we gotta reduce our quality, our opacity some. But I ain't seeing anything back there, folks. There we go. Still crazy looking. Maybe it's just this damn layer. That could be. You never know. See, it's in motion, which makes the sky look like it's in motion. You can do a lot of things with this. This is the scaling for each cloud layer. If you turn the others off, it'll give you an idea of what the different scales do. So these are like for the bigger chunks, right? And then as it goes to the other texture scales, they get smaller and smaller. But you can scale them as small as you want to scale them. You can make this 0.2 if you wanted to, and they'd be, like that. So you got flexibility that you can do with this. It's just the lower you scale it, faster they're going to go. You'll have to adjust their speed depending on what you're looking for, what you're going for. I try to make them somewhat mimic what they're, what's behind them. So that's just the way I do it. But clouds can be anything. They can be any different ways. Also, I'll mess with these two, the directions, so that they're all going the same direction, but just different, just a little bit. Like that's 0.1, that's 0, and that'd be -1. That way it's kind of going off in different directions. So I got some going that way, some going that way, and then these going off to that side. So it kind of, like a fan. And then you got the global speed that you can adjust globally. So it kind of makes it look a little different. Now you can have another layer. You want to just duplicate that layer. Duplicate it and tell that one to be, I don't know, white. But don't put so many of them in there. You're not going to see your sky ball anymore. That. So you can color it, but I wouldn't advise it. I guess a little bit won't matter much. It's when you go crazy with it that it really starts to show up there. Oh, do you see how it's kind of flickering? It'll flicker if you don't have one of these set. If you forget to set one of them, it'll start to flicker. They're not designed to not like show one of these. So they'll kind of like fade in and out like that. Maybe that's what you want. I don't know. But that's what makes it do that. And if that's what you want, then I'm running out of storage, folks. I'm going to have to end this quickly. But I think you get an idea where this is going. Damn, what's taking all my damn room? I know what's taking it. It's my damn downloads folder. All these materials, all these 16K HDRs, all of them, man, they all add up quick. They all add up quick. There ain't no telling all my stuff I don't need in here. Should give us a little bit of breathing room for the time being. Alright, so the next thing I'll do is the sky ball itself, right? The actual sky ball. Oh, I forgot. Save real quick. Our sky ball, it has a texture also, remember? And we can animate that. Now you don't want to go crazy with it, but you'll use like a wave animation, and you scroll, and you scroll the one that's that direction. I always get them backwards. I always pick the wrong one when I do this. But I got the right one that time. The other one makes it go up and down. Now you don't want it doing it that much. So what you do is you make it just do it a little. Just a little bit. Just like you can barely notice it, but you can kind of sense something's moving a bit. It sells this illusion that it's a real sky. And if you go into make a duplicate of it now, and the duplicate you make a little bit smaller or larger in the scale, and it'll be offset a bit. It'll even look more 3D-ish. But you'll have to try different ones to get it just where you want it. And you may, since you got two different ones that are both kind of accenting each other's, making the other lighter or darker, and you'll want to probably adjust either the opacity or play with the clouds some more. You can get it kind of where you want it. Kind of like the god Thor. You will all die. I am killing all of you. Yeah, I know that was pretty cheesy, wasn't it? Pretty cheesy, my friend. But it does kind of look cool like that. Alright, you can always move your balls too. You got a thing you can move them around, and you got a thing you can rotate them and whatnot, scale them. But see how offset, see how they kind of line up and then they don't line up a bit? Well, that's basically what you're trying to do. You're trying to make it so it's offset just a bit. And the more you do this, the more it gives like it's got depth. Earlier today I tried to make them taller. Well, one's a lot taller, stretched tall, and the other is not. And then duplicate that one and make that one even taller. And it starts to look kind of convincing. And like I said, you got to adjust this stuff. You can't just hope it's gonna do right. No, you gotta adjust things. If you really want to make it unique, then make another sky ball with a different texture but the same material. So we'll rename this to SkyBall 5 or 4B, 4B probably, and make the texture 4B. That way we can make a different movement out of it. Similar but a little different. So we'll export it as now for this one I think we'll put it in a new folder. Well, you got to put it in a new folder, or you got to add to the other folder material file. So we'll just put it in a different folder. That way we don't have to fool with that. I did think about it though, because you copy, make an exact copy of the one that you already done, it'd probably be a lot quicker. But oh well, off it goes. Maybe another time. Oh, SkyBalls, where art thou? You hiding from me, E? There it is. There's our ball. I'll drag that DAE right on in here as soon as the game makes material for it. Just thinking about it now. There it goes. So our new ball here will need some more work like the other. We'll go ahead and scale it up to maybe not as big as the other one, just so we can kind of tell the difference of what we're looking at. Let's do 2000 by 2000 there. Now we'll go into the emissive value. And remember, you got to have emissive in there, or it's going to look like a 3D object, but you're going to see the shadow on that ball. You know what I mean? That's what the emissive does. And yes, you have emissive on non-PBR, but it's not nearly as good. So emissive. Oh, I go to 1.5. Forgot to do it. So this one be also lerp alpha or pre-multiply alpha. I don't know what the difference is between them. I've been meaning to ask ChatGTP, but I haven't yet. I'm sure it knows. Maybe that I need to remove one of these if it's too overbearing, you know. It appears I have 4 balls. It's more than I wanted to put in here. See how it does? It's kind of cool, huh? Kind of trippy. Alright, let's get this situated here. Let's get it animated. Let's turn them all of those off for the time being. Alright, now the reason why that one's so dark is because, well, it's the clouds affect it more for whatever reason. Because the opacity's a lot less, you're seeing more of the clouds through it, which are making it too much. So that would be here. So if you get that issue, just take away some of the opacity. You can also adjust the amount of brightness it's got too. Maybe this one go up and down a bit. That's not up and down. Maybe it goes up and down, and maybe it rotates a bit. Just a wee bit. It certainly will look like it's moving. Yeah. You can tell which ones are stretched. We don't really want that look there though. Same path. They're all 5,000. I thought that's 2,000. Oh, we didn't make our ball. We didn't make it the right size again. Forgot we did 2,000. So let's get that situated. Now we're back where we need to be. And since these are both two different materials, you can have them both different. You can make one brighter, one darker. And just remember, your clouds are also making a big difference in the overall look of it. You also can have multiple layers. So if one layer ain't enough for you, you can make another one of the same material but just on a new layer, like so. Hell, you could put a different texture in there altogether if you wanted to. I don't know that you'd want to do that, but you know, when you're experimenting, making crazy things, you know, anything, you might have some crazy ideas. They might work out pretty good. You won't know till you try, though. If you ain't trying to do crazy stuff and your game ain't breaking often, then you ain't working hard enough, my friend. You're not working hard enough. If your game ain't breaking and you reinstalling at least once a week, you ain't working hard enough. You also got the fog to consider. The fog is on. If you turn the fog off, it's going to make a difference too. I don't know how much of a difference it'll make, but depending on how big your balls are, how far the fog goes, how thick the fog is, well, you'll see it basically has some bearing on the clouds at the horizon. But you can lower it if you want it to be lower. You don't have to have it go that high. You can have it offset so it doesn't be foggy too close to you. If that's an issue for you, yeah, you don't want the fog up close, then move it back. You want it to be a little thicker or a little less thick than that. But then you got to keep in mind, the thicker it is, the worse it's going to blend, because it doesn't seem to have a very big blending thing going on there. I usually just leave it at the default settings. I don't usually mess with it. And you know, it does its job, I guess, but you can adjust this to your liking. It's up to you. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't, you don't. Actually, I do like it less than that. I think if you're going to do that, you got to make it even lesser thick, so you don't see the obvious blending line. That'd be good. Alright. You may not can see this well, so let's make it move more. You wouldn't want it moving this much, though, if you're... Oh, I was making a second layer, that's right. Oh, forgot. And the second layer, we use the opacity map. I'll use the same map as the opacity map, and it'll kind of blend between the two. Just depending on what you got going on. You can do some stuff with it, and you really can do some cool stuff if you spend enough time with it. just have to make little adjustments. If you get too much of that, you just have to adjust. And I didn't even mention normal mapping. You can put normals on there too. I haven't tried it yet. Not on these, but I think that storm's coming, fellas. It's gonna be here before you know it. If your HDRI has a sun, just say it has a sun in it, then it's probably a good idea to make sure your HDRI matches where the sun is. Now, it's not going to stay perfect because it's going to, well, because if you fly far enough, you'll eventually get to the clouds, depending on the scale you set. Right? But who's going to go out there? Nobody. Unless you play in Motocross Madness and you go to the edge of the world and it shoots you all the way back across the screen, then I guess you could get over there. But yeah, you wouldn't need to go over there that far. But what I'm saying is you need to rotate it so that it does match somewhat, in the ballpark. Say the sun was over there, and you'd move it to where the sun matches wherever the sun in the game is, or just the sun in the game, so that it matches by going to, well, if you have time of day, then you would do it with time of day. If you don't have a time of day, then you do it with scatter sky by adjusting the azimuths. This is what the azimuth does here. Yep, that's it. And you got the axis tilt, which I'm not really sure what that does. That has something to do with damn timing. I don't mess with that. I mess with the azimuths. That's about it. And then time that the azimuth is where it's at. Maybe it's up high. And that's what azimuth is. I think that's it, fellas. I think this will be a win-win for everyone. This will be something useful. And you can see I'm just using one of these now. But I don't want to be here all night messing with this. I'll sit here all night and fiddle with it till I get it, till I break it, basically. That's what I'll do. Until I break it, I'll keep messing with it. You gotta wonder, well, what would normals look like on there? Well, let's find out. Hopefully I won't break it, save my level. Probably ought to back the damn level up, too, at some point. So we don't have normal mapping. You could always run a generic normal map filter in here. You could. But it ain't gonna do that good. It's not gonna look that good. But you could do it if you absolutely wanted to. I would say if you do that, though, do a slight Gaussian blur on it. Another little technique you can do is duplicate the layer 2 times, or at least three times is best. Duplicate the layer 2 or 3 times, and each layer you make slightly larger or smaller than the other layer. And you tell the layer that's above to be overlay, and it'll kind of offset it a bit, kind of like what I was already doing with the clouds, but it'll do it kind of with the normals. That makes sense. Now it's going to mess your canvas size up. You'll want to make sure your canvas is right. Now that's over exaggerated, but you get the idea. That's what it's doing essentially. It's making it more so that it's 3-dimensional. See that back there? Now that ain't too bad. It kind of gives it some little look that's kind of like, that's like, might be a little 3D look in there. But you got normals, roughness, also roughness to consider. When you do normals, you always got to consider the roughness. A lot of things to consider. But yeah, that was one idea to do. The other way would be to make an actual material that's a real material based on the shape of this thing. So you do like new, general, and since that map is square, we'll do this a little different. So we'll make a mesh plane, we'll edit it and make it so it's a lot of subdivisions. Then what we'll do is we'll put the picture in there of the texture of the sky. That'll be that one. Let's show it texture view. Get out of edit mode. It should look like it does on the game, where it's just, yeah, like that. That's what it should look like. Or is it? Shit, no, I don't think that is right. No, it's not. So we need to redo it. It needs to be, oh, it is right. It's just stretched, that's all. It'll be fine. It'll be alright, I think. Alright, now we'll go to Sculptor. And in Sculptor, we'll make a new texture, or new brush. A new brush for our sculpting brush. We'll put the image in there that we got of the sky, and then we'll go up to here, to Tool, and we'll tell it to auto smooth a bit, and to texture here to be stencil. Then you'll get it over here. Then you come up the top view, you move it to there, hold down Shift and the right mouse button to make that larger. It needs to match pretty close, really close. Perfect if you can get it there. Just remember, if you zoom in, you got to redo that. You know what I mean? And make sure you're in a perfect top view, that you're not like off cocked a bit. You don't want that, or it's gonna look off. Use the right mouse button alone to move it. So if you move it over here, it's finer movement than if you say you're in here. So you get a little more control to kind of just get it where you want it. Alright, now I ain't got all day, so we'll go with that. Now what's going to happen is what is light will stick out and what is dark will not. But since these are clouds, you might want to invert it. But we'll just go with it like this. That's more work. Alright, so like cutting the grass, adjust the strength. You're going to go side to side, like you're mowing the lawn. And once you get across and cut all your grass and you've completed the task, what that'll do is it'll raise this up a bit to make normals based on where those clouds are. Maybe it's not enough. Maybe you need more. Well, you got all the opportunity to undo and redo and maybe decide, well, maybe I should have done it that way instead. You also can smooth it. There's lots of things you can do. You'll have to make a few of them and find out what works for you if you end up going with this idea. You also got the smooth tool here that you can smooth it out a bit more if you need to. And we'll export it as nothing yet, because we've got to bake it. So over here in the render engine goes the cycles and GPU. Oh yeah, you can really see it now. GPU compute for me, we're going to buy 128 samples. We'll add a new mesh plane. This mesh plane will be the mesh plane we bake onto. So we got the high poly one. That's this one, the one we're baking from. And then the low poly one, which is just the mesh plane that we're baking to. It'll be in the exact same spot. I didn't move any of that stuff, so, and I didn't scale it, so I don't have to mess with the normal mapping. The baking 2 one, we'll go to shader here, and the baking 2 one will make a new material and add a texture image. And then depending on, don't try to bake 16K. You can bake 4K. I wouldn't go any higher than that. Maybe 8K, but man, it'll take you forever. It will take you a long time. Now, baking normals, you want to bake with linear lighting. And then over here is where you set your cycles. Remember, you set cycles. You got to set cycles or you're not going to be able to bake, because only baking is available in Cycles render engine. Bake normals. Now, here's just kind of a tricky part. You're baking from one to the other, so you need to basically select the one that you're baking from, hold shift, and pick the one you're baking to, and then when you pick the one you're baking to, make sure that that is selected. If you have trouble selecting the one you're baking from because it's almost exactly the same, you can go to this orange box here and go to viewport display and tell you to show you bounding box instead. Then you can pick the box, hold shift, pick the thing in the middle, and then bake. Makes it a lot easier. Also, if you are baking from one to the other, you need to also include selected to active. That means you're baking from one to another, not baking the same one, texture of the same one on itself or something. So you do this, and since a low poly model is going to have a little difference in the distance between the high and low poly, you need to account for that. You can either measure it or just put 1, usually works for me, and that should be it. Bake, and over here you get your bake. If you ever bake and it's yellow and your normals are flipped, you can always just invert it. And you see, this is rendering with only 128 samples, but it is 4K. That takes a bit longer. 8K, 16K, forget it. You ain't getting nothing. You'll never get that thing rendered. And I'm probably low on memory. Blender open. I got my photo editor open. I got the game open. And Mushroom still open. I forgot about that. Probably have to close that. And it is almost done. Yeah, you don't want to make mistakes and have to keep rebaking the same thing. If you are going to bake a lot, it's a good idea to bake, instead of 4K, do a 512 by 512 at first. And if it does right, then you know you can bake at a higher resolution. But if you wait this long and realize you did something wrong, man, it just takes that much longer to redo it. This will be it, by the way. Once this is done, I will end this tutorial. It'll be over. Sometimes, it just, I don't know. It does this too. It hangs. If it hangs, hell with it. I don't care. I'm not messing with it anymore. In fact, I'm thinking about just saying to hell with it now, because it's been sitting there a bit. See, did it move? Because I'm looking at time remaining, and that's going up. Like it's losing faith that it's going to get done. Yeah, shit, no. We'll cancel it. If I have to render lower res, I'll do that. But GPU could be out of memory or getting low memory. You could render with the CPU. That always will uh, render when the GPU don't. It's just slow. 20 cores, or no, 10 cores, 20 threads, and it's still a lot slower than the video card. I would say probably about 5 times slower, maybe. Yeah, folks, this ain't gonna probably go well. That's just memory, I guess. I don't know. Memory? Probably. Yeah, this memory is a little tight there. I don't understand this dedicated GPU memory, shared GPU memory. I don't really get that. I don't know. I don't really understand that because I know I don't have 32 gigs of GPU memory, like 16, but not 32. So I'm not quite sure how that actually works or what it does. But I don't think we're gonna get our normals, fellas. I think it's just gonna be missing in action. So I'm done. I'm ending this